Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Dylan Talk Sports. My name is Dylan. In this video, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we're doing another tier ranking. Before I go any further, happy Halloween. Hope you guys are having a great day. In this video, what I wanted to do for a tier ranking is I kind of wanted to do a best college football rival tier ranking. Now, this can go for football and basketball, but this is mainly going to be prioritized for football because some of the rivalries, it's like when it comes to football, they are very heated and it is a rivalry, and for basketball, it's not that much, and then vice versa. For a rivalry, it might be really intense for basketball, but for football, it's like, meh. But we're going to get right into this, like I said. Happy Halloween. Hope you guys are having a great day. If you're going to enjoy, make sure you drop a like. And without further ado, let's get into it. So as you can kind of see here, you have all the tiers. I'm gonna kind of run through all of them and kind of give you my description as to, like I always say in these videos, this is my tier ranking and this is what I think goes. Now the criteria for all these tiers, when it comes to legendary, that is the best of the best. When these two teams plays, it is like, if you did not watch this game, you're gonna miss some fireworks, you're gonna miss a good ass game. The two teams completely hate each other, and I don't mean just like on a school to school rivalry. I mean like the national media, your grandmother's friend, sister knows about this rivalry. When it comes to a heated rivalry, it's kind of the same as legendary, but it's a little bit on the downside towards like they hate each other, but it doesn't get super intense. The tier of when both are good, as it implies, when both teams are good, it is a rivalry you want to watch. But when they're both bad, or like one's good, one's bad, I mean, it's still a good rivalry, but it's not that fun. Occasional upsets, as always, like I said, it's good, but when there's an upset, it's like, man, this is cool. Average is like, I probably don't even know about the rivalry. And then rivals is like, I'm going to be questioning why it's even on this list. So let's kind of get right into this. You can kind of see all the teams all kind of right there. Let's go ahead and start off. We're just going to go through these. First up, we got Battle for the Bell, Cincinnati Bearcats versus Miami of Ohio. I didn't really know that was rivalry, but I'm going to go maybe average. And for the record, I tried to look up some of these rivalries, the ones that I had no clue about, to try and see like if they really were a rivalry. And I guess Cincinnati and Miami of Ohio are kind of rivals. Kansas and Missouri, the border war, I guess it's like when they're both good, maybe it's a good rivalry, but I'm gonna just go rivals because I never knew they were rivals. I mean, especially with it being a Big 12 school and an SEC school, I've never heard anybody talk about Missouri and Kansas. I don't even know the last time they played. This one here, Michigan State, I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna put them in the when the both are good, because like the name implies, when they're both good, it's fucking awesome. But we recently just saw Michigan play Michigan State 49-0. 49-0. And I realize Michigan State is not good this year. But even with that, it's like I've seen games elsewhere, like we'll get into it here in a moment, of the Iron Bowl with Alabama and Auburn, where Auburn comes in the game being like 6-5. Maybe like sometimes they're like 3-8, 3-9, whatever. And they still give Alabama a fight. So with that kind of implies why Michigan State and Michigan, when both teams are really good at the point when they play, they deserve to be like, I would say if they were always good, they'd be like in a heated rivalry. But with them always both, one of them being up and down, when both are good, it's a good rivalry. Next up, we got Alabama and LSU. I'm going to say that's a heated rivalry. Now, from within the LSU and the Alabama schools, could this be literally like a legendary rivalry? It very well could be. But from my point of view, like I said, this is my list. I'm going to say it's a heated rivalry. Next up, we got Alabama, Tennessee. The third game in October is what it's pretty much described as. I'm going to say when both are good, because there's been plenty of times where Tennessee has just not been good playing this game, and it's not really a talked about game that much. Next up, we got the Arkansas and LSU. I'm going to go average. I know they're rivals, but they're not really a big talked about rival. Georgia and Auburn, I'm going to say when both are good, because I can't really put them in the occasional upsets, because even when there is like an upset, Auburn is a good team at most of those times, and same thing with Georgia. They're both good teams when the upset happens. And when they play, you don't really see the bands yelling at each other. You don't really see the fans getting all into it. So it can't really be a heated rivalry like the Alabama LSU. Arizona State. I'm gonna be honest. I'm debating on putting them down here in rivals because I've never really heard of them being a big like fighting rivals. But I'm guessing because of being Arizona State in-state rivals, I'll go average. North Carolina and Virginia, if it wasn't a rivalry about a week ago, it damn for sure is now, because recently, at the time of recording this, North Carolina just got beat by Virginia. So with that case, I'm going to say the occasional upset. Next up, we got Stanford and Cal. I'm going to be honest, I never really heard about this rivalry, but I guess with in-state rivals, Stanford and California, both being there in California, maybe average. I'll put them in average. Next up, we got the house divided bowl or game, whatever. Georgia and Georgia Tech. I guess you could go like when both are good, it would be a good game. I'm not really, I mean, Georgia Tech's never really that good. So with that case, maybe the occasional upset. We'll go there. Who am I kidding? We'll go average. Florida State, Miami. This is actually a really like interesting rivalry. It's fun to kind of see it happen, but once again, it's an average rivalry. Oregon State. After reading up on some things, I was debating on putting them down here in average, but after reading up on some stuff, I'm not gonna lie, that's actually a pretty heated rivalry. USC and UCLA. It's a good rivalry. I'll say when both are good, it's a fun game to watch. We've seen in the past like maybe 10 years when both teams are actually good and on the field, great players, playing well. It's a fun game to watch when they play each other. The Apple Cup, Washington State, that game is actually supposed to happen later on this season, so it'll be a good game when that happens, I think. But when both teams are good is where I think it's going to go. The occasional upsets, not really, because both teams, it seems like they always are in sync with each other. It's like they're never one good, one bad. It's always they're both bad or they're both good. Next up, we got Army Navy. Now we're gonna start getting some juicy ones. Army Navy. This is a game you have to watch. Every year, it's in Philadelphia. It's like the last game, right there during the title games, Big Ten title game, SEC championship game, Pac-12 title game, etc. All those games. It's on that weekend. It's either that weekend or the weekend after. But you know what I'm saying. Army Navy. It's an old-fashioned punch you in the face. They're gonna run the ball. They don't like to run the ball for some reason, but they're gonna run the ball all over the place. Everybody gets excited, and they got their slogans of "Go Army, beat Navy," "Go Navy, beat Army." So for that, I might put this up in Legendary, just for the fact that everybody knows this rivalry. Like, if you don't know Army Navy, you don't know college football. I'm gonna start kind of picking some of these out here because I kind of want to keep the better ones for last. We got the Iron Skillet battle down here. SMU versus somebody. I can't tell who that is. It's SMU versus TCU. My bad. I didn't know that was a rival. Rivals? I didn't know. Let's go down here. We got Virginia Tech versus West Virginia, kind of the battle of the Virginias. This is actually a pretty good rivalry, I've heard, but I'm gonna say it's kind of a more average rivalry if you ask me. Texas A&M. This one, they don't really play that often. That's the problem with some of these games. It's like they don't play that much. If they played more, it'd be more exciting, and that's why it's like with Texas A&M. I'd say if they played like every single year, they're both good teams, so it's like you kind of want to put it up here, like when they're both good, it's a good rivalry. But then again, it's like I understand why it's a rivalry because they're in-state rivals. But then again, it's like I'll just put them here in the average. Let's go with the Sunflower Showdown. I'm gonna put them. It's Kansas State. It's a good game, I think, when they play. Once again, another average rivalry. Louisville, Kentucky, in-state Kentucky rivals. I'll say when they're because they're both good teams. I'll say when they're both really good, it's a fun game to watch. We got the Keystone Classic, Penn State, Pittsburgh. I didn't even know that was really a rivalry, but then again, for the context of them both being in-state rivals, I'll go with average. You're getting a theme going here that if they're in-state rivals, I'll go average just because I don't know the in-depths within the schools to know that. Like, I can't put them with rivals unless, like, I know, like, that they are truly, like, a rivalry. And I kind of know that Penn State and Pittsburgh, they have a little bit of, like, a beef with each other. Same thing with like Kansas State, they have a little beef, and Arizona State, they have a little bit of beef. So because I think it's the championship clash or whatever. Virginia Tech, Virginia, once again, average I'd say. We got the Backyard Brawl. I wish I kind of had another tier in here towards like just a little bit better than the average. I would make another tier, but then I'm gonna like start moving a whole bunch of things around. So I'm once again, it's an average rivalry. Next up, we got Iowa. Let's go over here. We got Iowa and Minnesota. Battle of the Hog, the Pig, whatever you want to call it. I forget the name of the trophy. But oh, that's a tough one. I'll say when they're both good, that's actually a pretty fun game to watch. We got this one right here. We got BYU and Utah, the Holy War. I'm gonna guess these two actually do kind of hate each other. So for the fact of what I've seen online, I'm gonna put a heated rivalry. I have some things I need to change here real quick. I've done a little bit more research. Backyard Brawl is going into heated. I seen a video online of some highlights from the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And holy fuck, was I wrong about saying average. Let's get back down here. We got BYU and TCU. I'm going to say average. I mean, they've played the past few years in some games, and it's like you don't really see like this chippiness, this heated, like they don't like each other type games. It's more of just like they're just out there playing football. We got the Rocky Mountain Showdown, Colorado and Colorado State. We saw the game earlier on the year with Deion Sanders as the coach now, and it was a fun rivalry. From what I saw out of them, there was more of like added value to it because of what the coaches were saying to each other. that kind of added some value to it. But I would say this. I'd say it's more of when both, or at least, I would say at least when one of them is good, they can get on this slot. We got Oklahoma and Nebraska. Back in the day, this was a good rivalry. This was a good rivalry. Now, it's like, it's okay. Put it this way, I'd say when they're both good, it's a good rivalry. It's like, it's just not the same. And also with the fact that they're not being within the same conference anymore, it kind of hurts them a little bit because they can't play each other every year. Next up, we got the war on 1-4 down here. We got UCF versus USF. I'm going to put them in average mainly because I'm sure they're a fun rivalry. I'm sure they probably are two schools that maybe just don't like each other a little bit, but I don't really ever hear about them. We got the Palmetto Bowl, I think is how you say it. Clemson versus South Carolina. I'm going to say when both are good, it's a fun game and a fun atmosphere. But once again, it's one of those games that I don't really hear about that much. And if it is a heated rivalry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't see it as that. Next up, we got Florida and Florida State. I'm sure these two hate each other to death. I'm sure it's probably a fun-ass rivalry. I'm sure it goes back and forth for both football and basketball. But speaking of just football here, I'm going to say average. Well, no. I almost made a fuck up there. I'm going to say when both are good. And in case somebody is in the comment section right now saying like, well, what about all these teams when they're both good? It's probably fun. Yeah, but no. Like seriously, if Virginia Tech and Virginia somehow, say Virginia was ranked 23rd and Virginia Tech was ranked number 12, and that was a game that was going to be on, what would you rather watch? That? Or one of these games up here like an Alabama LSU or Army Navy? I'm taking these games over that any day of the week. We got an underrated game that I'm putting up in heated. We got the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Cyclones versus Hawks. Iowa State versus Iowa. I know that rivalry from anywhere because every time that game happens, it is lit. A lot of great players have come out of that rivalry. A lot of great teams have been shown within that rivalry. Here lately, though, not so much. Within like the past year or two, it's gone downhill with the way Iowa's offenses had looked. But there for a very long stretch, they have been very, very good. We got Florida State and Clemson. This one, I'm going to say is like when they're both good, it's probably a good game, which it was this year. This year they did play. Florida State won against the Clemson 31-28, I believe, in overtime. It was a fun game. There was a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, players were arguing, and it was a good game overall all around. We got Michigan and Notre Dame. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that was a rivalry. I did a little research. It's a little bit of a rivalry. It's more of an old school thing. So for the sake of that, I'll put them in average. I think that was more of just like back in the day, there was two coaches going at it. Nowadays, they're not really like big rivals. I mean, if they have to play each other, they go on the schedule against each other. Okay, maybe it's they try to bring back that old beef, but I don't think the players really go into the game and be like, okay, we're playing Notre Dame this week, or okay, we're playing Michigan this week. We gotta have our game faces on. I don't really see that. This one here, Duke and North Carolina. If this was a basketball tier list, I'd be 100% saying like legendary plus, 100%. But with it being football, I'm still going to keep them up around here. I'm going to put them in the heated category. It's the battle of the two blues. It's a fun game, whether it's football or basketball. If it's basketball, like I said, buckle up and get your tickets because it's going to be a show. But even for football, I still think it's a good, entertaining game. Game-wise, it comes out to like maybe like max 20, 30 points. But for the whole competition and the atmosphere, the players yelling at each other, the bands going at each other, it's a fun rivalry. And the last one out of like the ones that I need to like just quickly go through, we got Florida and Tennessee. This one, I would say is more like when they're both good, if you had to ask me. Now, these last 9, I'm not going to lie. I might have to do a Legendary Plus. Yeah, I had to add another tier. Legendary Plus. So let's go ahead and do Legendary Plus for Army Navy. Give me a minute. I need to change some things. I didn't really change too much. I kind of forget what I changed. But I did bring Alabama and LSU up into the Legendary category. I think I changed another thing in here. I didn't really do too much. But let's get back on track. We got Bedlam. Bedlam. I'm going to go and spoil it now. Almost every single one of these games is going to be anywhere from Legendary Plus to Legendary or Heated. I think everything down here is pretty much set in stone now. I'm going to take Bedlam and put him in Legendary. It's an extremely passionate game. Everybody gets into it. But there is just something about Bedlam that it just sucks everything in and you have to watch. There's been a lot of great games coming out of this rivalry, but there's always something about the game to where it's like, it's extremely good, but at times you feel like you can kind of walk away. You're not going to really miss anything. Sometimes it's a shootout. Other times it's been kind of low-scoring games. But I will say about 95% of the time, it's been a shootout. So it's kind of one of those games where it's like you've never really had a chance to experience every type of outcome. And sometimes with a rivalry game, I like that kind of stuff. The bands don't like each other. The players don't like each other. When they go to Oklahoma or Oklahoma State, They purposely go to that school because they know I hate the other school and I don't like them. We got Florida and Georgia, the battle in Jacksonville. I've never really found that fair that they play in Jacksonville, Florida, when it's like Jacksonville, Florida plays Georgia. I never found that fair, but I'm getting sidetracked. I'm going to say this is like a heated rivalry. It's a good game on the field, don't get me wrong. The fans don't like each other. The players don't like each other. The coaches sometimes don't like each other at times. But by the time this tier list is done, you're going to understand why they are in heated and why some of these are going to be in like Legendary Plus and Legendary. We got LSU and Texas A&M. Let's take this one. I forgot about this one. I'm going to say this one. I forgot about this one. I'm sorry. I messed up earlier. Yeah, this one's going to go when both are good. Nothing really to say other than, like I said, when they're both good, they're both good. Okay, now that I've looked at all these are all going to be in these top 3 tiers. Let's take Harvard and Yale down here. This is usually a good game when they play. It's more or less a battle of the brains. It's 2 schools. We're the geniuses. We have the highest GPAs. We're smart asses. But then it's like, oh, hey, guess what? We can play football too. People watch it on TV, I think more or less because they find it funny because it's like Harvard and Yale, they have a football team? I'm going to say that one is legendary. Well, I take that back. I'm sorry. Heated. I kind of thought about it for a second. I was like, am I really going to play Harvard and Yale on the same level as Bedlam and Alabama LSU? Let's move on. We got Notre Dame and USC. This is another one that it's up there in the legendary. 2 schools do not like each other. Players, when they go and play this game, it's like they have to learn, especially when they're a new player. You have to learn. When you're a USC player, you don't like Notre Dame. When you're a Notre Dame player, you don't like USC. Now, the reason it's kind of getting kept away from the Legendary Plus is because there is times where it's like there have been numerous occasions where it's like it just doesn't really faze me kind of game. Or I think the big thing is I wish this game was always at the end of the year. Because here, this year, Notre Dame played USC in Notre Dame like the 6th week of the season, and I didn't like that. I like it whenever it's a big time rivalry. That game needs to be kept for the end of the year. Especially when it's like your rival, your #1 rival. Keep that for the end of the season. We got the Egg Bowl. This game is usually played on a Friday, the day right before rivalry weekend. I'm going to put it up here in the heated rivalries. It's an intense matchup. The players go at it. The coaches go at it. The fans go at it. The band goes at it. Social media goes nuts all week long with this kind of game. They do kind of lose some points because they're fighting over a big ass egg. The reason why I can't put them up in the legendary is because, I mean, look at the team. Look at the games up here. Are you really going to put a game that they fight over an egg up here? I don't think so. And now we have probably the 3 best games of college football every single season. You have the Iron Bowl, the game, and the Red River Showdown. Let's go one by one. I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm going to keep the game for last. Let's start off with the Iron Bowl. Legendary. Legendary, legendary, legendary. There is a piece of me that wants to put this sucker up in Legendary Plus. Nah, fuck it. I'm going Legendary Plus. Where you at? There, get your ass up there. There have been so many great games. Most of the time, the best games are when Alabama has played Auburn at Auburn. They're from like, I think like 2007 until like 2019. It was like a stretch there where it was like every year they played in Auburn, you had to watch. The kick 6 when Alabama tried to kick the 58-yard field goal and Auburn ran it back and they went to the national championship that year. That was nuts. I think it was like 2019 when Jalen Hurts was actually the starting quarterback for Alabama. Auburn was able to win that game. They went to the SEC title game as a 2-loss team. They didn't go far there, but Alabama ended up still making the playoffs. They won the national title game that year, but it was still a great game from Auburn. This game holds so many outcomes. You never know what's going to happen. We've had blowouts, close games, kick 6s to probably the best play in college football history happen in this game. Fans don't like each other, and when it comes to that game of the year, the announcer, Brad Nessler, he pretty much says when he opens the call, he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, get ready, because we're going to get a war." Second to last one, we got the Red River Showdown. 2 teams that fucking hate each other. Horns up, horns down, whatever you choose. Texas does not like Oklahoma, and clearly Oklahoma does not like Texas. There isn't a single person within Texas that likes Oklahoma. There isn't a single person in Oklahoma that likes Texas. It's the one game of the year that gets basically the best venue for a football game at the Cotton Bowl, at the State Fair. Every single year, it's usually played there. I think from what I've been hearing is they might be changing that up. I still think they're going to play there, but I think with the whole Big 12, them moving over to the SEC, they're trying to figure out how that's all going to work. But for the time we've had it, it's been like brain popping. Every year it's like something incredible happens. It's going to Legendary Plus. Last year I think is whenever Texas beat Oklahoma like 49-0. I think Oklahoma fans wanted to scrub that from their memory. But when it comes to the Red River Showdown, that game is something you had to watch. And then last up, we have the game. It's something you have to watch. I feel like it doesn't matter if you're an Ohio State fan or a Michigan fan. You watch this game, you anticipate this game. I feel like it doesn't matter about the first 11 games. And they say this every single year when it comes to whether it's Ryan Day or Jim Harbaugh or whoever the coaches have been in the past. I don't give a fuck what you do the first 11 games or the first whatever games of the season. That last game of the season, you have to win it. Looking at it from both sides, Ohio State fans, we are raised when you come out of the womb, you do not like the team up north. Hell, there's a fucking song. We don't give a damn about the whole state of Michigan. I'm pretty sure Michigan has a song too, but I don't give a fuck to learn it. Both schools have literally a countdown within their locker rooms every single year when the game happens. When it gets to high noon, I think it's like 12:03 to 12:04 when kickoff is supposed to happen for the game. There's literally a countdown in the locker room, and it counts down. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a TV. If you could be looking at that countdown and then watching the game, you're going to see the kicker running up, and the second their foot kicks that ball, that countdown resets, and it goes right back to 350 or 65 days and 23 hours and whatever. Ohio State during the week of the game, right as soon as the second to last game of the season happens, every single M, whether you're texting somebody, the street signs, the stores, every single M within the state of Ohio is crossed the fuck out. There have been bloodshed. There have been injuries on top of injuries, locker room fights. Hell, there's been wars in the tunnel. There have been people literally throwing bare knuckle shot hands on the field. There have been refs hurt in the game. There's been coaches getting swung at. Now, I will say here in the past few years, it seems like the rivalry has kind of like slowed down with the violence that it used to have. And I will say the rivalry, it felt like it was kind of like shutting down to a point of where it was like, Ohio State, we were always winning. But now these past 2 years, it sucks to say this, but they have beaten us twice in a row, and Ohio State wants to get their get back. Now with Michigan winning 2 years in a row, Michigan is trying to make it 3 in a row. They want to impose their will on Ohio State to make sure they know we are taking over, and Ohio State wants to go back, and they want to get another win to try and say, hey, look, we can still beat you. But overall, I'm going to stop talking there. That's my list right there. Let me know kind of what you think about the whole list. But other than that, hopefully you guys are going to enjoy today's video. If you did enjoy this whole tier list ranking and you want me to make more of these, make sure you go ahead and drop a like. If you want to watch the entire today's video, thank you very much. And you want to go ahead and leave a comment down below of what you kind of think about the whole tier list. If I put a rivalry in the wrong spot and you want to kind of give your opinion, let me know in the comment section. If you're enjoying the content that I do post here and you want to go ahead and hit that big red subscribe button, feel free to do so. And do not forget to hit that little notification bell to be notified the second I post a new video here on the channel. But without further ado, it's been Dylan Talk Sports. Have a great day. Have a happy Halloween. Peace.